Genesis from Kardec, and will be about attribute from God. Without know these attributes, we will make so much confusion. My God. Wow. Let me see the book. It's second chapter from Genesis from Kardec. Spiritism gives us a great map before, during, and after our life. Now we have a great map open in front of our eyes. Who is intelligent will use this map. Who is displeased with his own life will go to nowhere in a great ocean. Is this the divine nature I read? Today I will continue this. I read Item 8, continue Item 9. God is the supreme and sovereign intelligence. This is attributes of God. I will read. God is the supreme and sovereign intelligence. Human intelligence is limited, since humans could neither make nor could they comprehend everything that exists. God's intelligence, embracing the infinite, must be infinite. If it were supposed that God was limited at any one point, then one could conceive of a still more intelligent being capable of comprehending and doing what the other could not, and so on and so forth, and infinitum. God is eternal, meaning that God had no beginning and will have no end. Only God has this. Because if other have this, it will be another God. If God had a beginning, if God had a beginning, God would have had to have sprung from nothingness. But nothingness being nothing, it cannot produce anything, or God would have been created by another previously existent being, and therefore it is this other being that would be God. If one were to suppose that God has a beginning or will have an end, then one could conceive of an entity having existed before God or capable of existing after God, and so on ad infinitum. God is immutable. If God were subject to change, the laws that govern the universe would have no stability. God is immaterial, meaning that God's nature differs from everything that we call matter. Otherwise, God would not be immutable, because God would be subject to the transformations of matter. God has no form perceivable to our senses. Please, thinking about this, how have things that don't have in our mind, they still don't have this concept. God has no form perceivable to our senses. Otherwise, God would be matter. We say the hand of God, the eye of God, the mouth of God, because humans, knowing only themselves, take themselves as terms of comparison for everything they don't understand. Those images in which God is represented as an old man with a long beard and dressed in a robe are absurd. I think in this image, Kardec say this are absurd. Their drawback is that they lower the supreme being to the meager proportion of humanity. From that starting point to endowing God with all the passions of humanity and to making God out to be angry and jealous, there is only a small step. God is all powerful. If God didn't possess supreme power, one could conceive of a more powerful being, and so on and so forth, until one encounter the being that no other could surpass in power, and that being would be God. God is supremely just and good. The providential wisdom of the divine laws is revealed in the tiniest thing as well as in the greatest, and that wisdom allows no doubt about it, either God's justice or goodness. The infiniteness of a quality excludes the possibility of the existence of an opposite quality that would lessen or annihilate. An infinitely good being could not contain the least fragment of malice, nor could an infinitely evil being contain at least fragment of goodness. In the same way that an object could not be absolutely black with the slightest nuance of white, nor could an object be absolutely white with the smallest speck of black. Then we don't can imagine God not perfectly and make confuse of this to others images, but with mescla, with black and with little nigger points. It's not possible, or totally black or totally white. Not could an object be absolutely white with the smallest speck of black. Not an object couldn't be absolutely black with the slightest nuance of white. Hence, God could not be good and evil in the same time. Oh, this sin will be reproved by God. No, it's not God. It's not God. God don't give difficulties to no one. God don't give order to his angels. Go to another person to make bad to other. It's not from God. It's from evil. Okay? Hence, God could not be good and evil in the same time, because then, not possessing either one of the other of those two qualities to the supreme degree, God would not be good, would not be God. All things would be subject to capriciousness, and nothing would have any stability. Thus, God could be either infinitely good or infinitely evil. Now, since God's works bear witness to God's wisdom, goodness and kindness, one must conclude that not being able to be both good and evil at the same time without ceasing to be God, God must be infinitely good. Supreme goodness implies supreme justice. Because if good were to act unjustly or with partiality in just one instance, or with respect to just one of God's creatures, God would not be supremely just, and consequently would not be supremely good. God is infinitely perfect. It's impossible to conceive of a God without infinite perfections, without which God would not be God. Because one could always conceive of a being possessing what God lacked with what God lacked. In order for no other being to surpass God, God must be infinite in everything. God's attributes being infinity, they are not susceptible to increasing or diminishing otherwise. They would not be infinity, and God would not be perfect. If the least fragment of just one of God's attributes were removed, God would no longer be God, since a more perfect being could exist. God is unique. God's ownness is the consequence of the absolute infiniteness of God's perfections. Another God could not exist except in the condition of being equally infinite in all respects, because if between them there were the slightest difference, one would be inferior to the other, subordinate to the other's power, and would not be God. If there were absolute equality between both, there would be throughout all eternity one and the same dot, one and the same will, and one and the same power. Thus merged in their identity, they would in reality be only one God. Only exists one God. If either one had special attributes, one would do what the other didn't, and then there would not be perfect equality between them, since neither or nor the other would possess sovereign authority. It was ignorance of the principle of the infiniteness of God's perfections that gave rise to polytheism, the religion of all primitive peoples. They attributed divinity to every power that seemed above humanity. Later reason led them to fuse all those various powers into only one. Then, to the degree that women understood the essence of the divine attributes, they abolished from their symbols the beliefs that were the denial of one sole God. In sum, God cannot be God except under the conditions that God cannot be surpassed in anything by another being, because then the being that surpassed God in whatever way, even by so much as a hair's breadth, would be the true God. That is why it's necessary that God be infinite in all things. It's thus in God's existence being proven by the fact of God's works that dot a simple logical deduction, one arrives at determining the attributes that characterize God. Let me see something. Yes. God is therefore the supreme and sovereign intelligence. God is unique, eternal, immutable, immaterial, and powerful, supremely just and good, infinite in all God's perfections. It can be no other way. Such is the main point in which the edifice of the universe rests. It's the beacon whose rays extend throughout the entire universe, and the only one that can guide the humans in their search for the truth. Following it, they will never go astray, and if they are often misled, it's for not having stayed the course. Such is also the infallible criterion for all philosophical and religious doctrines. To evaluate such doctrines, humans have a strictly exact measure in the attributes of God, and one can state with certainty every theory, every principle, every dogma, every belief, and every practice in contradiction to just one of those attributes, or which tends not only to annul them, but simply to weaken them, could not be of the truth. In philosophy, psychology, ethics, and religion, there is nothing true except that which doesn't wander one iota from the essential qualities of the divinity. The perfect religion will be the one in which not one article of faith contradicts those qualities, and in which all its dogmas can bear the proof of that test without being affected. Then is this about God. You must perceive that it's only one. It's not possible to have various, because one would create other laws different from other. It's not possible. The laws of universe are in established way. It's not change all time. Then God not change. Is only one, eternal and infinite in his attributes, goodness, justice, and immutability, powerful, supremely just and good, and all God's perfections intelligence, absolute wisdom is this, and more that we don't still can understand. Because our mind is this way, and universe is so great to our mind can say with words what is God. We don't nor can imagine the image from God, because if he is immaterial, how we would imagine the form of God without appearance, material appearance? Then it's better we'll know that have God, that is a cause of all intelligent laws in the universe is from God. All intelligent and wisdom laws in the universe is from God. It's good to our little mind. In this little planet, in comparison, millions of billions of galaxies that exist. One galaxy, we are in one galaxy, but have millions of galaxies, and we don't know still our galaxy. We don't know. Science don't embark all this knowledge. Imagine various galaxies forming a universe, one universe, but science are discovering that have others universes, and we don't have capacity to understand one galaxy in our universe. We are infinity small in front of all this universe. And I give greetings to God to create me and can be happy with my life and can say only about what we still don't understand. Our Creator. God bless all. And now have a reunion with Dr. Bezerra de Menezes in 1 minute about other spiritual doctors to help you if you are in pain, if you have a problem that you don't can resolve. Still, more than 40 years I work with this part of spirituality, searching with my ignorance, help others how I can, and with permission to God. And stay in prayer if you want something help today. Now, until the next, thank you, your presence. God bless all.